Okay, now let's just focus on writing quadratic functions from a function table. And you can use any of the three forms, but it depends on what data points you are given. So here we have a function table, and first of all, I notice that our x values are consecutive, so I can now just focus on the output values. When I am given several ordered pairs of a quadratic, and have been given the y-intercept, the c value, I am going to use standard form. Again, you can use whatever form depending on what has been given to you. And then we know how to convert from one form to the next. And if you are being asked to convert it to a specific form, then you can do so. But it all depends on what you have at the beginning as where to start. So I know my C value, so we need an A value, a B value, and a C value if we're using standard form. My C value is -2. Now, because I've been given several output values where my x's are consecutive, I can find the A value. We're going to find the first difference, so we have +3, then we have +9, 15, and 21. So this is our first difference. Now let's find the second difference. From 3 to 9 is 6, 9 to 15 is 6, and 15 to 21 is 6. So the second difference is 6. So our A value is 6 divided by 2. Don't forget, the second difference divided by 2 is how you get the A value when you're using standard form only. Now we are going to find the B value by choosing an ordered pair, and I'm not going to choose the y-intercept. So let's just choose, we can choose -1, -5. So f of x is -5, our A value is 3, the x value we're using is -1, we do not know B, and our C value is -2. -1 squared is 1 times 3. B times -1 is -b minus 2. Combine like terms, -b plus 1. Solve for b. Divide by -1. And our b value is +6. When we write our final equation, f of x equals 3x squared plus 6x minus 2. Now, if you were being asked to write this in vertex form, then you would use your formula -b over 2x, plug that value in to get your output, and your A value would be 3. If you were asked to put this in factor form, if it could be, then you would use our graphic organizer to find your two factors. Now, sometimes you may not be able to write it in factor form because this may not have two integers for factors. In this example, we're going to be using our factor form or intercept form to write our equation. So notice that what we've been given are the two x-intercepts, our two roots. That is when y or f of x is 0. So we have we're going to need an A value, a P value, and a Q value. Our P or Q is going to be -2 and 4. This is where our parabola crosses the x-axis. We do not know A, so again, we're going to pick a point we've not already used, to be our x and f of x for our function. So I'm going to replace f of x with 10. We're trying to find what the A value is. Our x value is 3. Our p-value is -2, so it's 3 minus -2, so that's 3 plus 2. And then we have 3 for our x value minus our q value of 4. Three plus 2 is 5. 3 minus 4 is -1. This gives us -5a, and solve for a. Our a value is -2. So when we plug that in and write our function, we have an a value of -2, x minus -2, which is x plus 2, times x minus 4. And again, if we wanted to write this in standard form, we would simply multiply these three factors. If we wanted to write it in vertex form, after we found standard form, we would use -b over 2a and then plug that into the function in standard form to find the k part of our vertex. Now, we're going to write our function in vertex form. This is when you have been given your vertex and one other point. So we have an a value, an h value, and a k value. We do not know the a value. Our h value is going to be -2. Our k value is -4. Again, you will have to be told which ordered pair is the vertex. So I have f of x equals a, and then we have x minus -2, which is x plus 2, minus 4. Now let's use this other point that has been given to us for x and f of x into our equation. So I'm going to replace f of x with 4. Again, we're finding our a value. The x value is -6. And let's simplify. -6 plus 2 is -4. We're going to square -4 and we get 16 times a. And now let's solve for a. Our a value is 1/2. So when we write this in our vertex form, our a value was 1/2. We have x minus -2, which is really x plus 2, minus 4. And again, we could rearrange this and convert it to standard form and factored form if possible. Now, what about when you're given a graph? You can use whichever form that you want depending on what you've been given. So here we have the vertex, so we could use vertex form. We also see that we have two integers for factored form. And if we wanted to use standard form, we do have the y-intercept for C, and then we could list out some ordered pairs where our x values are consecutive to find the a value. So really, we could use any three of these. So I think I'll just start and let's do factored form. So we have our p-value and we have a q value. So our p-value is -1, our q value is 3. We do not know the a value. So we have x minus -1 and x minus +3. Let's use any point to plug in for f of x and x to find our a value. We can use the y-intercept if we want. We could use this point, 2, 6. Any point on the graph besides the p and q we can use. We could use the vertex. So let's just use the vertex. So this is 1, 8. So for f of x, I'm going to plug in 8. For x, we're going to plug in 1. Now we're solving for a. And our a value is -2. We put this all together. F of x equals -2 times x plus 1 times x minus 3. Again, if you were asked to now convert it to standard form, you would just multiply all of this together. Let's take a look at one more. Again, we have the vertex, we have our two roots, we have our y-intercept. And we've already found our equation for number 2. So let's do number 1, standard form. And we're going to use this function table to find our second difference. We know the c value is going to be 6. It's the y-intercept. Now to find the a value, we're going to plug in some points. So let's see, we have -1, 0. The next consecutive, again, we're going from left to right, writing the points along our quadratic. We have 0, 6, then we have 1, 8, the vertex, and then we have 2, 6, and then we have our other root, and that is 3, 0. So you can see our x values are consecutive, so now we can definitely use our outputs to find the second difference. From 0 to 6 is 6, 6 to 8 is 2, 8 to 2 is -2, and 6 to 0 is -6. So this is our first difference. Our second difference, we're going down 4, and down 4. So our second difference is -4. So the a value is going to be -4 divided by 2 gives us -2. So what we have here is, let's give some space here. I'll just work it out right here. So we have f of x equals our a value of -2. We do not know the b value, and our c value is 6. Now let's pick any point besides our y-intercept and plug in for f of x and x. We can simply just use this point here. So this is point -1, 0. I'm going to put in 0 for f of x and -1 for our x value. -1 squared is 1 times -2. b times -1 is -1b. Combine, we have -b plus 4. -2 plus 6 is 4. Now solve for b. Divide by -1, and our b value is 4. So we're going to write this. We have f of x equals -2x squared plus 4x plus 6. Now that we know our a value is -2, we can simply say -2, and we have x minus -1 and x minus 3. We know our a value is -2. Our vertex is going to be 1, 8. So we have x minus 1, quantity squared, plus 8. So it depends on what data points you are given on which form of equation to use. And then you can convert these to the other forms. Now, sometimes you may not be able to convert it to factor form because we may not have 2 integers that are our roots. So let's do one more. And we have our y-intercept, we have our roots, we have our vertex. So we could use any one. So I think I'll do standard form again. just to make sure everyone understands how to write it in standard form. So in standard form, you're going to have to know the A value and the C value, because the B value is what we will use, is the variable we'll try to find. So our A value, we have to have consecutive X values. So from left to right, I'm going to write down some ordered pairs. So let's start with 0, 6, 2, 0, 4, negative 2, 6, 0, and then we have 8, 6. Now, notice this, our X values are not consecutive. So we're not going to be able to use these outputs to find the second difference. So if we look here at 1, when X is 1, our output is not an integer. So I am not going to use standard form. So this is a good example of when not to start out to try to use standard form. Again, we would need to know our value for 1, our output value for 3, and when X is 5, and so forth. So our X values must be consecutive in order to find the A value in standard form, our second difference. So instead, let's write this in factored form and find the A value. Our p-value is positive 2, so X minus, the p-value is 2. The q-value is positive 6, so it's X minus 6. Let's pick a point to plug in for f of X and X to find our A value. So I'm just going to use, let's just use the vertex. So this is 4, negative 2. So for f of X, we're going to use negative 2. We don't know the A value. The X value is 4. 4 minus 2 times 4 minus 6. So we have negative 2 equals negative 4A. And now let's solve for A. So our A value is positive 1/2. So in factored form, we're going to have f of X equals 1/2 X minus 2 and X minus 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and convert this to standard form now that I have factored form, and I'm going to multiply. And I'm going to first start out just multiplying the binomials. So we're going to have X squared minus 6X minus 2X plus 12. Combine your like terms. And now we're going to distribute the 1/2. So we have f of X equals 1/2 X squared minus 4X plus 6. So erase this arrow right here so we can see this clearly. And now let's put it in vertex form. We already know our A value from when we found it in factored form. It is 1/2. Our vertex is 4, negative 2, so X minus 4, quantity squared minus 2. I hope this helps.